Today's topic is one that I did not have planned to make at all, but I'm glad that I'm making it because it's one of those things that it's more a subjective topic more than anything, but there are some people so arrogant and extremely full of pride. There's no way that you could ever persuade them into looking at things this way because I guess they're accustomed to existing in a society that caters to them, was designed for them, around them, and to an extent by them, but not completely unassisted. I'm using the term assistance very lightly because I don't think that assistance that's forced out of you is really worthy of describing as assistance. Because when I hear the word assistance, I usually imagine, oh, someone is assisting me. Like they're performing this because it's something they're in the position to do, they want to do, they desire to do, they have signed up to do, they represent this, and not, oh, they have to. On Twitter, there's a user by the name of Mega Verma Art. Looks like this. She said via tweet, when Encanto came out, Encanto is a Disney movie, in case you don't know, it's one of the newer ones. I immediately disliked it because the characters were fugly. So from that sentence, right off the bat, I can deduce that this is an individual who is incredibly superficial. And it's an individual who is more concerned about aesthetics more than anything. And I'm not sure if she phrased it like that because that is all that she wants to focus on, the appearance of things. But as someone who does not care about her appearance, and as someone who does not have any inferiority complexes about any physical traits that I may have, then I will never be able to connect with someone who expresses themselves like this because that's just not something that I do. It's not something that I put priority. I have observed movies in which the characters are animals and are aliens, and you know that aliens are humanoid, distorted kind of creatures, and I never complained about them not looking beautiful or whatever, because that's not the point. The point is not supposed to be a beauty pageant every single movie that you observe. I'm pretty sure every little girl thought the same. Don't believe me? Ask a little girl if she wants to be compared to Princess Jasmine or that fat Encanto character. Even though Mirabel from Encanto, she has more of a round face. This is the image that she's using. That's Mirabel. She actually just has like a round kind of face, but for a 15-year-old, she's supposed to be pretty healthy, if you ask me. This is a character who actually eats, and she's trying to compare a three-dimensional character to a two-dimensional character, which, if you ask me, no character ever should have a waist that's smaller than the head. And as you can observe, Jasmine's waist is significantly smaller than her face, and her face is already thin. But there are certain angles in which, because this is drawn by hand, 2D, this is a distorted kind of appearance. If you want to have an appearance that's more objective, I guess, more accurate, you want to do three-dimensional things. So anyway, there goes that. There's already a comparison between a character who can be somewhat more realistic in appearance to someone who absolutely is not realistic any way that you look at her. If especially the eyes, and I know that Mirabel, you know, she has those Disney eyes as well. So, you know, it's a lose-lose situation. But I think this lady's issue with her physique is that she doesn't accept that there are different face types. Personally, even when I gain something as little as 5 pounds, the first place where that's going to show is my face. Because from my dad's side, I have a predisposition to having a rounder face. But when I lose weight, then my bone structure can kind of take over. But I don't keep myself small because, oh my god, I don't want to look like my dad. At some point, I may have said that out of scorn and disdain, but Nowadays, I just look at it as, hey, I like to be able to recognize myself. And I think that I look more like myself when I maintain a fair figure. But she continues and says, even if a girl in reality does look like that character, the last thing she wants is to be reminded about it. And to me, that just put the final nail on the coffin. I responded to that tweet by saying that Mirabel is pretty close to normal looking these days. We are usually given Eurocentric princesses instead. It's refreshing to see stories of more average looking people. There are more average people than royalty in the world, and little girls should be compared to what they really are. And I'm pretty certain that the average Twitter user is not a member of royalty. The average artist, the average Hollywood celebrity, they're not members of any royal families. And don't mention Harry and Meghan. Just like I said, I think that when you're watching works of fiction, it's fiction. It's taking you away from day-to-day depictions, the day-to-day reality that surrounds you. But I don't think that should always be the case. You can have works of fiction that takes elements of real life and you can make that a trend. But sometimes I feel like you have to exit so much from reality to create something that's interesting, when reality should bring you plenty of inspiration. To me, when she said the note of ask any little girl if they would want to be compared to Jasmine, even if that's not the case, they wouldn't be reminded of it. You are already admitting that you have a predisposition of inculcating messed up values onto little girls. Me personally, when I was a kid, I never really thought about characters as, ooh, they resemble me. Ooh, they don't resemble me. Why? Because it's fiction. They are cartoons, they're animations, they're characters created by computers or created by the stroke of a pen. Why would I let that influence me? And for you to call these characters ugly just because they look different from you, just tell me that you're a racist without telling me that you're not a racist. But if there's ever a little girl out there feeling that they don't want to be reminded of the fact that they resemble these characters, to me it sounds like you believe that those individuals who are members of that community, members of that culture, are inherently inferior. And that's literally the definition of racism. So there is no way that you could possibly backpedal from that one. My personal opinion is I don't care what a character looks like as long as the story is a good one. A story can be entertaining as much as it can be educational, or sometimes something doesn't have to be entertaining, but it can be educational. It all depends on your values. There's a lot of content that I watch that isn't even pretty for the eyes because I'm a curious person. I've been looking up medical content. That mess is gross, but I'm not sitting there judging that that's the way we are by design. It's just the way we are, and people have figured out how to deal with the fact that that's how we are and how to treat us and cure us and things. This is why I have the character that I have, because people like this and I are never going to click. We're never going to connect. This is already where you're coming from, and that does not resemble at all where I come from. My values, how I manifest, how I opine, how I criticize people. And if I have to criticize somebody over their appearance, I want for it to be practical. For instance, consider making yourself fit to be at work. I'm not saying that if you're a bigger person, you're not able to hold a job, but consider the benefits to possibly being more fit. If there's an emergency, you can count on maybe one single individual being able to carry you out. But if you're a bigger individual, one person who could be in the vicinity saving your life, they're going to have to either leave you behind or find somebody for support. And by extension, that extra second they're spending looking for support may cost somebody their lives. And at work, sometimes I have to maneuver through tight spaces, and I like the fact that I can just slide between people and things, and I don't have to cause them to rearrange something just to make way for me. Those are the things that I value and I take great pride in, and I'm still able to do the job. But if you're trying to justify that you being the way you are and there's an emergency and people don't tend to you and someone is able to tend to me immediately instead because I'm smaller, then I think that that's just you being delusional. You have to understand that if my life is easier and quicker to save, they're gonna get me out of the way, and then they may consider going back for you when they have the reinforcements. But they cannot just try to spend all their energy and effort on just you when the effort by a single individual to tend to you is futile. That is the only time arguing like that is when I would put somebody's physical appearance or physical state into question. It's all about practicality. Nobody is ever thinking about emergencies happening. Everywhere I go, I'm always thinking about if an emergency happens, where are my exits? That's why when you go to the movie theater, you see posts on the screen talking about the nearest exit. Make sure that you have located it because shit happens. Same thing with airplanes. What is the first thing they do to you the moment that plane starts rolling? Safety, safety, safety. You're under threat everywhere that you go. Is someone like this thinking about that? Thinking like that? Probably not. And this is the kind of person that I am. And I like to find people who value the fact that I am like this, but also people who can reinforce that about me. People who appreciate that. But someone who's going to completely mess something up, mess up a work of art over appearance. People, especially women, we exist in multiple sizes, shapes, and all that. That's when I recur to science, and this is why I love science. Figure out why we had to be designed the way that we are. And people are trying to neutralize the very things in their bodies that are meant to keep them efficient and safe. You guys ever hear about cellulite? I'm sure that you do. Everybody has it, but people are always trying to avoid it. I embrace mine because I actually understand on a biological level why it's there. Oh, if I were carrying a child or something, it would stay alive because that's a source of fuel, a source of fat, a source of energy. It could help me in the long run as well as a source for those things because we are so accustomed to living a life without a lot of needs. But famines can happen, natural disasters can happen, wars are happening. So who's to say that my biological protection, that reserve that I possess, is never going to kick in for me? So if I don't meet somebody who sounds similar to me in that area, I don't bother with them. And then this person, when I saw that, I thought of it as this is a person who's accustomed to living, I'm guessing, a high-end kind of life in which they have not experienced a real problem in their lives, and that's why they have so much prejudice. Well, there you guys have it. That's it from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that my point of view made sense. I don't expect you to agree with it, but I present it in this way to give you an idea of how it is that I interpret people and why it is that I make the decisions that I make, in which I am very, very strict about what I pick up on people. Whatever you say, I'm going to absorb that and process that and evaluate potential risks, potential benefits, and that's how I will determine how I'll manifest with you. Most people, fortunately, I can say, are not like this. And if they are, at least they bring it out in a place and at a time in which it does not interfere with my life. It doesn't affect my life or anybody else in the vicinity. And I think that's the way to go. If you're going to be an asshole, it's nice if you identify yourself as an asshole anyway, but at least be an asshole in an appropriate setting, preferably in your privacy. Don't divulge the fact that you're an asshole to inconvenience everybody. Do the damage to yourself.